Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I would like to welcome you to a special board meeting of the Deschutes Public Library District Board. We have a number of items to cover this morning, and thanks for everybody making time. Our first is director recruitment, and we're going to discuss hiring standards, criteria, process. Todd, do you want to do an introduction on this?
Yes, so as you may recall, we hired DSG Global to help us with this process. And I don't remember if Trisha's been to one of our meetings yet. Well, and Trisha was here live and a lot of you got to meet with her. And so we're going to have her kind of give us an overview of what we're looking at for the recruitment process.
Thank you. So I'm just going to go through the process that led to where we are now, and certainly talk about some of the qualifications that we have been looking for as a committee. So DSG was engaged in early March, and I met with the committee. We developed and finalized a position profile. I did come out April 2nd to talk to, meet the staff, give a presentation, spend more time at the board, spend time at your libraries, just to get a sense and feel for what you might be looking for. And so some of the qualifications that are outlined in the job description, but I'll just repeat here that we've been certainly looking for someone that possesses strong, visionary, inclusive leadership skills, someone who's forward thinking, someone who can manage and partner with your management team and your board, someone with a strong communication style that can work with the staff and leadership and the board and the community, and asking a lot of questions about engaging with the community. Certainly someone who has a collaborative style, and certainly someone that is connected to your mission and vision. And so once we had that job description finalized, we launched in the market. And then we met with the search committee every other week to identify candidates and talk through them. Just to give you a sense, overall sense, we have reached out to close to 300 people for this. We received 50 applications. 16 candidate resumes were presented for consideration to the search committee. They then interviewed 8 candidates, and we are at the point where there are 2 finalists that we would like to bring to Bend to meet people in person and to meet with the community as well. And so that's where we're at in the process. Of course, that is a very quick overview of what actually included a lot of work by your committee to spend time meeting that many candidates and reviewing resumes. We did develop a series of questions that each candidate was asked for equity reasons. They were asked the same questions across the board and assessed evenly in that sense. And so, yes, we are at the point now where we will be inviting candidates to Bend.
And Tricia, can you say something about the minimum qualifications?
Sure. The minimum qualifications for this, aside from the list that I gave you, was certainly a Master of Library and Information Science degree, a minimum of 7 to 10 years of leadership experience in a progressive library system, the ability to I think in this sense, certainly someone that has overseen multiple branches was valuable in this. There were certainly a lot of applicants that managed a single branch, but those that appealed to the search committee certainly were those that had a similar experience with multiple branches, a track record of driving innovation, proven experience working and with community partners and developing those relationships. And certainly we looked at their knowledge of library trends and practices, just to name a few.
Okay. At this point, does the board have any questions? And hearing no questions, we would like to open the public comments section. Are there members of the public who would like to comment on the recruitment process, the hiring standards, criteria, or any other matter that's been described? Okay, hearing no public comment, we will close the public comment section of the meeting. And I guess I would ask the board to weigh in on approval of the process and standards as presented. I would entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
And just for the sample motions we sent out, we should probably throw in library director recruitment process, library director
Yes.
process.
I move to approve the library director recruitment process and standards as outlined.
I second the
Thank you.
motion.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Aaron, was your vote counted?
Do you want me to do a roll call?
Yeah, that would be
So
great. Yeah.
because it's hard for us to see the screens, I'm just gonna do a roll call. So Aaron,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and Laura,
Aye.
Michelle,
I,
and Ann.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. As part of this, Michelle and I have been participating with Jennifer, Chantal, and Todd on a subcommittee to do a lot of this work, so it has not consumed our board meetings, but I think the time has come now to dissolve that subcommittee, and so I would entertain a motion to do so.
I move to dissolve the library board director subcommittee.
I second.
All right,
And just to throw the recruitment subcommittee. if
yeah,
you could add that.
recruitment sub.
Okay.
Do you need me to repeat it?
Yeah, that'd be
Sure,
great.
that'd be great.
I move to dissolve the library board director recruitment subcommittee.
All
Aye.
right,
I second.
okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Todd, do you want to call the roll
Yeah,
again?
Aaron,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Michelle,
I,
Ann.
Aye,
Okay.
okay. All right, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Tricia, for joining us and for providing that update.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we'll see you very soon.
All right, we're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Tricia.
Bye.
Okay. Next up is collective bargaining agreement discussion. Todd, do you want to do an introduction?
Yes, and I'm actually Jennifer and Chantal and Lynn were on the committee that worked with the union. My only comment is I really appreciate the work that they put in along with Neil, who's last name? Taylor, with Local Government Law Group, did an excellent job of really driving what was kind of one of our more difficult ones, not due to conflict, but just a lot of language. And so really happy that we're at this point, especially to be able to do this before the fiscal year end. That really helps our processes. And I'm gonna have Jennifer, maybe have you give us answer any questions about the piece. I think last time we met with the board, you talked about a summary of what changes were in there. So I'll leave it up to the board if you'd like to hear that again, or if you'd like to just go into the agreement itself.
Any preferences? Okay, I think we can go into the agreement itself. Jennifer, if you want to.
Okay, so everybody should have received, Word versions and PDF versions from Susie yesterday. I guess I will just ask the board if you would prefer that I go through and talk through areas that I feel are highlights in the contract, or if you would prefer just to ask me targeted questions related to the contract. I'd be happy to take whatever approach you prefer.
I would think if you can give the highlights, that would be great.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder, this is an important step. So.
Certainly.
Summary.
So I'll go ahead and then give just a high level summary of the monetary adjustments that were made to the contract that we discussed at the last board meeting. Those included an agreement for a 4-year contract beginning July 1 of 2026 through June 30th of 2030. Also approved was a cost of living adjustment over the term of that 4-year contract, which for this upcoming fiscal contract year would be a 3.5% cost of living adjustment and 3% COLA for the subsequent contract years. Again, we just want to acknowledge the board's generosity for this coming year and taking care of our staff. Very much appreciated. So thank you again. Moving on, we had a change to our paid time off plan, or what we call time management. The amount of accrual for that benefit does not change. However, we agreed to front loading a 1-week equivalent at the start of new hire employment so that individuals can have immediate access to paid time off for whatever reason they may need during the first couple months of their employment. Also, moving on to our compensation in the form of longevity pay. So the district offers a seniority based differential at 5, 10, 15, 20 years of employment with the district. And that historically has, at 5 years of service, starts with a monthly additional differential of $50. That has been increased by a factor of $25 per month. So at 5 years of service, individuals will now receive $75 per month. And that amount will increase by a factor of $25 per month over up to 20 years of service, and therefore forward will be capped at a maximum of $225 per month. And then we also went going forward to our healthcare subsidy. We have a provision in place in the contract that if somebody has the requisite years of service with the organization and they are retiring prior to PERS eligible age, we have a tiered benefit where the district contributes a monthly contribution to their COBRA healthcare payment if collected. And that has increased by a factor of $50 per month. Again, starts at $150 if the individual had 15 through 19 years of service and capped at $250 per month. So those are the financial highlights. Any questions before I move into non-monetary?
I did have one question, and I apologize for not knowing the answer to this. But when we do class and comp analyses, which we do every year, how does that factor into the contract?
Um,
Is it a separate thing?
So it's referenced in the contract, but it really only applies to the salary schedule. Other issues factor into other pieces that I mentioned, such as just the cost of healthcare, for example, which would not be directly related to a class and comp study, but more just the cost of premiums for healthcare elections.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to some non-monetary highlights. Just reflected in the contract is a couple of just general updates. With the assistance of our legal counsel, Neil, he went through the contract and updated regulatory and statutory language just to align with state and federal employment law and requirements. So there's just a general update of those things. There was also just some catching of little grammatical issues here and there throughout the contract that we kind of doubled down and updated there. The bargaining unit wanted to make sure we were using gender inclusive language, and so that has also been updated and reflected in the contract. So those are just some general, I would call housekeeping or administrative adjustments that were made to this document. And then going through, I will just highlight areas that are, I suppose, notable just in terms of driving a different process within the employment climate that we operate in. We added a section in, I'm just going to go through by article. So Article 5, which deals with probationary employees, we added a section 5 and 6. These were specific to documenting a process for if someone was promoted into a new position, was not successful in that position. We articulated in the contract that they could move back into their previous or substantially similar position if they were not successful in the promoted position. And then also with that clarified that if they were in effect demoted or moved back into a prior position, if they were serving a probationary period during that initial employment period, that they would just need to satisfy the balance of that probationary period. That is a pretty standard practice in a lot of contracts, and we just did not have that in our prior language. Moving on to Article 6, discipline and discharge. We agreed to adding a standout statement on wine garden rights. Wine garden rights are that in a unionized workforce, that individuals who are in meetings that could result in discipline have the right to have a steward or union representative present. So we called that out more fully in this section. We also agreed to add a section 6 regarding progressive discipline step advancement, and that is covers factors that may be considered where the situation may warrant stepping outside of a progressive process and treating the situations specific to the seriousness of the conduct or performance issue, prior disciplinary record, whether the conduct poses safety, legal, or operational risks, or whether prior corrective actions have been. Moving on to Article 7 regarding the grievance procedure. So in the last contract, the turnaround time between each step of escalation in the grievance process was noted as 14 days. We agreed to expanding that turnaround time period to 21 days, 21 calendar days to be precise. And then Article 8, salary administration. Again, this is just memorializing that update to the longevity pay that I referenced earlier in the monetary updates. Article 9, on call and callback time. We did just add several sections of clarification regarding when employees who are called back need to be able to report to working status with the organization. We also clarified language on telecommuting, which is a little bit more of a reality in today's employment climate than it was 4 years ago in our last contract. And we also added an expectation section that employees must remain fit for duty, reachable, and able to respond within the designated time period. The next article of note that I'll cover is Article 13, vacancies. We updated a section or added a section 5 regarding internal recruitment and selection for represented positions. So the additional consideration is that when the district elects to solely internally recruit for an open represented position, employees seeking the available position within their same job description and current job classification shall not be required to complete a formal application or interview process if the recruitment will result in a change in the work schedule, FTE status, or primary work location. It will require that employees submit an internal interest questionnaire to ensure that we're capturing all interested parties. This had a number of years ago been a practice, but not something that was actually memorialized. And this was a provision that the district agreed to go back to for folks who already are in the position, but are really just looking for schedule changes, transfers, or moving from say a part-time position to full-time in their same job area. Moving on to Article 14, assignment of personnel. We added some additional language in the section of layoff and recall. This was primarily a area of cleanup. Just for the board's FYI, we have not had a layoff since becoming a public library district, but we nevertheless do have a layoff provision in the contract. We agreed to update layoff notification from 30 days to 45 as is practicable. And then we also added several sections just further outlining recall considerations and qualifications for selection. We also added a section on just clarifying what happens if someone declines a recall and that this process falls outside of the grievance process. Moving to Article 17, holidays. We did make an adjustment to holiday time calculation for our 32-hour or 0.8 FTE position classifications. That the majority of our staff work an 8-hour day, even if that's a 32-hour work week. And so in consideration of that, the district agreed to pay a 8-hour holiday. Previously, it was a prorated holiday, and then the individual had to use their pay time off to make them whole for the day where they were not working. So we agreed to language that was to stay straight 8-hour holiday. See. And then also in Article 17, Section 9, we this is where we memorialize the proration of PTO or time management at up to a week's equivalent, which I mentioned in the earlier monetary summary. And then moving on to Article 19, types of leave, Section 10. We added just some clarifying language under leaves of absence. So this particular section has to do with non-legally protected leaves of absence, basically elective leaves of absence where the director would have the final say on a special circumstance for somebody who wanted to take additional time off outside of our current structure. And that was just clarified that there will be a written response explaining the rationale if there's a denial, and that it falls outside of all legally protected leaves. Article 21 concerning health benefits, insurance and other benefits. The only change, again, monetary, which was updating the healthcare premium subsidy for retirees that have not yet reached first retirement age. Article 22, we just moved in an update to our travel expense process. That had been updated during the life of the last contract and was memorialized in a memorandum of understanding with the union. And we just simply mapped that memorandum of understanding over into the body of this current contract. Moving on to Article 23, safety. We did add some additional considerations, a little bit more specific than we had in our last contract. And this was simply in response to the fact that we are now in a more sophisticated facilities environment. And there was a identified need to call out the process within our safety committee for incident reporting data, continuous evaluation, and trend identification and analysis. And then Article 29, wages, again discussed during the monetary highlights, which was the adjustment to our cost of living adjustment for the term of the contract. And then lastly, here in the main body of the contract, we added a new Article 30, and that clarifies telecommuting. This is for the most part a direct mapping of our existing on-site first limited telework policy, where we have just outlined the purpose and scope of telecommuting within the organization. Again, just a reflection of a process that really didn't exist 4 years ago. And then moving in, there are several appendices. So the appendices are attached to a contract that just further outline and explain some of the more complicated areas of benefits or employment, and one of them being wage and hour. One of the clarifications or additions that have been added into the contract is concerning something called exchange time. Exchange time is something that's unique to the district, and it is a one-for-one time exchange for exempt staff, meaning staff that aren't subject to overtime. So if they end up finding themselves working in excess of their standard schedule, kind of on an emergency basis, they have a capped ability to take that time off outside of their paid time off schedule. And we added some language in there clarifying that we will now track that time. And then at the end of Appendix A, we added a section on student loan forgiveness eligibility. Our staff did want us to call out the Federal Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So as a municipal nonprofit, our employees do qualify under that program to apply for loan forgiveness. So we memorialize that in the contract. And then moving on to Appendix B, time management. We rolled in some prior language from a separate memorandum of understanding where we within the last several years gave our staff the ability to roll over a capped amount of time management into their supplemental retirement plan as an alternative to cashing out their, I think it's 1 week. And then lastly, Appendix C is the salary schedule starting July 1st for our represented staff. So that brings me to the end of the contract. I know a very lengthy summary. Any questions on any of those changes?
No.
Any questions, anyone?
It's like some notes and shaking heads.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer, for that summary. And this is an important part of our budgetary process or our, our finances for the district. So I think it's important for us to understand what's in there and what changes have been made. So thank you very much. If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement. Any motions?
I move to approve the agreement between Deschutes Public Library District and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 2837 for July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2030.
Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
Right, any further discussion? All those in favor, Todd, do you want to call the roll?
Yes, Aaron,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
and Ann.
Aye. Okay, following up on that, we will need a supplemental budget resolution. Would you like to present that, Robert?
Thank you, Ann. First I wanted to kind of go over what we knew going into the month of June, and that is that as part of our general obligation bond issue, it's essentially considered to be a tax-free municipal bond. And so there's IRS rules around that to ensure that the federal government still earns the taxes that the federal government feels it's owed. So the rule that's relevant here is that there's a requirement for the bond issuer, the district, to pay any tax on interest earned above the rate that the bond yield is at. And so essentially it's a measure to prevent municipalities from going out and issuing debt on the public market that's tax-free to the bond holders, and then turning around and just parking it in an investment at some higher percentage earning to arbitrage that earning and make a profit basically on public issuance of debt. So what does that mean for us? Well, for the last 5 years, we've been tracking that through interim arbitrage reports that we get from our bond counsel. They develop those reports on an annual basis. We usually get them in August, and then we take that information and we kind of fold it into our anticipation of what we knew was ultimately going to be our tax bill at the 5-year mark. Every 5 years, that's when the tax bill comes due. So here we are at the 5-year mark of our 2021 bond issue. So this one's not an interim arbitrage report. It is a final arbitrage report for the first 5 years of the bond. We were expecting that to come in August, and since we didn't really have much of a sense of when or what the amount was, the best that we could do was estimate based off of last year's arbitrage report, which put it at around $3.1 million. We had that baked into the fiscal year budget for fiscal year 26-27 that was adopted by the board in the June board meeting. Well, the arbitrage report came early. It arrived on June 15th, and the exact number for our tax liability is closer to $4.8 million. Furthermore, the fact that we got that tax bill in this fiscal year means that regardless of the due date being in July, it will post against this year's fiscal year budget. And we did not have an arbitrage tax payment baked into the fiscal year 25-26 budget. So that's why we're in front of the board before the end of the fiscal year to ask for a supplemental budget that would essentially account for the payment of that $4.8 million tax liability to the IRS. It would post on sometime before June 30th. Essentially, it'll be in next week's check run. It will show up in the warrant list, and then we will issue that check to the IRS in the next week so that it gets to them before the due date. So what I'm asking the board today to do is to adopt a resolution. The resolution is resolution number 30, should have been sent in advance for you. Just to remind you, this is a supplemental budget adjustment for the current fiscal year, so fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. If you look at attachment A, it outlines the increase. The increase would be to the materials and services line. However, the total net change in requirements is over the appropriation for the fund. So it's $4.8 million change on a $65 million appropriation, which keeps us below the 10% threshold for a public budget review meeting. We are allowed to adopt this by resolution in this board meeting today. So the resolution itself has the language for adoption, and that is the district amends and adjusts the estimated resources and appropriations with the funds and categories delineated and set forth in attachment A, attached here and incorporated by reference herein as if fully set forth. What this means is as soon as the resolution is adopted today, the budget is considered to have been changed, and so we'll be operating under that new number, and we are allowed to expend those funds before the end of the fiscal year.
I will add in the piece that other than the timing, this is something that Greg has been planning throughout his budgets that have been presented to the board. So it's really more of a timing piece than a, oh my gosh, we have this bill we weren't expecting.
Right,
Yeah.
and so the money that we've got allocated for next year's budget won't be needed.
That is correct, yeah. So we will essentially have additional materials and services budget allocated for next year that we'll see in our quarterlies that we're continually underrunning because it had this supplemental or this tax payment baked
Right.
into it.
And will we be owing future arbitrage amounts from
Good
the
question.
5-year mark forward?
Yes, yeah, so any additional interest that we earn at this point will likely end up falling above that yield threshold. And so what we've asked Greg to do, and what we'll be doing for our budgeting as well, is any LGIP interest on the remaining cash that we have for the bond project between now and 2031, we will account for it as both interest earned on the revenue side and set it aside as future tax payment. So we don't spend the money that we're earning here, we're holding on to it to pay the tax bill.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I know that for some of you that have not been involved in all the nuts and bolts of the bond, and this is confusing, and even for those of us who have been, it is confusing.
Yes.
But we have been expecting this, so it isn't new information, as Robert said, it's just timing.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any specific questions for Robert?
I
Thank
do.
you.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
go ahead, Michelle.
Oh,
you
no,
first.
I was just going to ask about that discrepancy between the 3.1, which maybe is where you're going to, Laura, and 4.8. And if you could explain a little bit more about what was behind that the discrepancy in terms of what we anticipated and had budgeted for the next fiscal year.
Yes, so the discrepancy comes down to interest earned in the last year. So when we got that arbitrage report in August of 25, August of 25, it was based on what we had earned up until May of 25. Now here we are, it's 2026. And so an additional 10 months or so of some of those investments in the investment portfolio coming to maturity and the earnings on that, combined with any of the LGIP interest for the account, for the cash that was in the LGIP. The good news is that from a budgeting standpoint, we've been really in lockstep with Greg, and so Greg has all of that information, and basically what he presented to the board in the June meeting had all of this. It was really just timing. So we thought that the initial arbitrage was going to fall closer to where it landed in the prior report when we put together the budget for next year. But Greg's been carrying something along the lines of 5.1 million total in anticipated tax payment at the end of the project. And so he's just kind of ticking that up as we earn more interest against the cash that we have.
And so just so I'm clear, the total amount of tax that we're anticipating owing for this, it has not changed. We've just stepped up I get that we're stepping it up from a fiscal year standpoint, but also that I'm confused as to why that 3.1 wouldn't have included an accrual for the remaining portion of this fiscal year that we would have assumed would have been part of it too. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does make sense. And so really, there are two things going on here. One is the timing. And so that's what's requiring us to present a supplemental budget right now. That said, even if the tax bill had come in July or August, we probably still would have been coming to the board to ask for an increase, because otherwise we would just be reallocating between what we had budgeted for capital outlay and materials and services. So I guess the bottom line is that we did underestimate our estimate of what we would need for this initial tax payment. That came down to our cash flow analysis, working with Greg. We thought that it was going to land in a different sequence than it did. And honestly, I just didn't have as nuanced an understanding of the way that this happens. It's only recently that I dug enough into the tax law with the bond council folks to understand that we're not paying annual tax bills from here on out. I thought it was first 5 years were interim, then every year after that you're paying. It's an every 5 year in 5 year increments. And so I thought that what we were doing is we were going to be paying that 3.1 million for the first 4 year calculation, because the next arbitrage report was going to come a month after I knew that the bill was due. And so I didn't think that the last 12 years was going to be part of the tax bill as a result.
Okay, the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And so the total amount for taxes on this in terms of our estimation has not changed. We're not paying 1.7 million more in taxes. It's really just that total amount is the same.
That is correct. So the total amount is still the same, but the date at which it is due has kind of moved up for basically what we earned in the last year.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. I'm sure this is a new learning curve for you too, and something.
Yeah, I'll take it away for the next time we do
I was going to say, now you can consult with others, but I appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Laura, did you have a question? Any other questions?
That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 30.
I move to approve
adopt
resolution 33. You and me, we're just going to go toe to toe. You go, Laura. Okay, I'll go. I move to approve resolution 30.
Laura, you're muted.
I think she might be frozen.
Oh, okay.
We need a second.
We need a second.
Okay, Brian,
Brian, okay, thank you. Todd, you want to call the roll?
Sure, Aaron,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and Laura, if she can hear us. I think we lost Laura.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Let's see, there you go.
I'm back.
And
Okay.
we were just having a vote on the resolution and.
Hey.
Aye, okay.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for making time during this time period. I know we've got, Brian, you came on the board at like the maximum of
Yeah.
time commitments right now, but we promise it will get better. And the words that I did not say earlier is thank you to everybody on our negotiating team for the hard work that it takes to negotiate labor contracts. And we appreciate all those hours of work that you put in because our employees are very important to us. So thank you. Any other business before the board? Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.